Thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining me, and let's dive in. So what I want to share with you today, it's so good. It's really a good one, is going to come with a lot of permission and a lot of tough love. Because I think that's what we all need around this, and I'll explain why. But basically, we're talking about what is like one of my number one golden rules for not only coaching results, but sales results. And I think that a lot of times we think those are so different. And they're actually very, very, very similar. And what gets you results in one is usually something that will get you results in the other. And so I just want to talk about both. And I want to take a sip of my coffee. Okay, so you guys know I'm always bad at playing shit up and making you wait, but I'm going to tell you the rule. And then I'm going to tell you like why it's important, how to implement it in coaching, how to implement it in sales, and kind of like how this has played out for me over the years in coaching. But it's going to sound so simple, and it's almost going to sound too simple. And what you're probably going to say to yourself is like, oh yeah, I totally do that. But I want you to actually take a second and be like, but do I really? Do I actually? Because I would have told you always like, oh, I always do that. And then when I finally like started to make this a non-negotiable rule, I was like, oh, this takes like effort. Like you have to show up for this. So anyway, I'm going to tell you it, and then I want you to really consider that. So the biggest rule for coaching and sales success that I have found is just to say what I'm fucking thinking. That's it. And again, it's going to sound simple, and you're going to be like, oh, I always say what I'm thinking. I bet you don't. So here's what I mean. Say what you're fucking thinking. So often in sales and in coaching, we're trying to do it right. We're like, what would be the right thing to say in this sales situation? What would be the right thing to say to this client? And we're not present and just providing our experience and feedback. Does that make sense? So that's why one of the reasons I fucking hate sales scripts is because we're not actually being present and saying what we're thinking. We're like trying to get it right. And what I know for sure is that what my clients benefit the most from is my knowledge and my experience and my expertise, and most importantly, my ability to see the forest through the trees when they can't. So if I'm not showing up and saying what I'm actually thinking in coaching or in sales, and we'll get to some really specific examples of both, I am really not giving them the experience of why they hired me, right? I am really not giving them an example of what it would be like to hire me. I am really not pushing them forward. Why? Because I'm worried about how I will look, and because I don't want to be uncomfortable. Because I'm worried about what they'll think. I'm worried about the awkward conversation that will come from saying what I really think. But let's just use sales as making a sale as an example to start with, because I have this with clients all the time. They'll come to me and they'll be like, well, you know, I had a sales conversation with this client and they had an objection. If you're listening and you want to give me an objection to use, you guys know I do great with examples, or if you're watching the replay and you want me to walk through one, let me know. But whatever, this client, I had a sales call with them, and you know, they said they just like really don't have the time for coaching right now. I'm like, okay, cool. So like, what'd you say? They're like, well, you know, I just told them like, let me know when they do, and you know, I'm like, I'm here and da-da-da, whatever, right? I'm like, okay, cool. What do you think? And they're like, well, I mean, I really don't think it's about the time at all. I really just think that she doesn't feel ready to trust herself because she's invested in a lot of other things in the past that she hasn't finished. Okay, did you say that? No, I didn't say that. Like I really would not want to upset her like that. Does that make sense, right? So it's like they're coming to me and they're like, well, here's what I really see. Like they're scared because they've made investments before, but I can't say that. Like, no, that's the exact reason they need a coach, is because they need someone to say that shit. That's the exact reason, right? So you see how like in coaching or in sales, like so often we're like, oh, I see what's happening here. I just can't say it. Or I see what's happening here, but I'm certain this person will be upset with me if I say it. Or I see what's happening here, but I don't know if I could really say it how I mean to say it or in the way I'm supposed to say it. No. That's why coaching and sales feels hard, because you're not just saying what you think. And so I made this deal with myself a while ago, which is I will always say what I think in sales and in coaching. Always. Now, does it mean that I don't position it in a way that I feel like is digestible? Of course not. Does it mean that I let, that I sit in all my triggered own stuff and project that onto a client? No. But it means if I can really see something happening in their business, in the sales process, and patterns playing out for them, I'm not going to chicken the fuck out. Like, this is literally I shook on it with myself. Like, this is a thing for me. And I really see that so many people, when they're not feeling successful in sales or as a coach, this is why. Because I have this conversation with clients all the time. They'll be like, here's what I said, but here's what I was really thinking. And they're amazing, honest, phenomenal humans. They're not like out of integrity or trying to be shitty. They're just like not sure how to navigate this territory of like, I can see what's happening and I know it's going to make you uncomfortable AF when I say it. Right? And so this is just something I want to give permission around today for coaching and for sales. And I want this to be like a gift you could give yourself to make the same deal with yourself, to establish the same rule, because everything after that becomes so much fucking easier. Everything. When you just make that decision, and same with content, right? When you just make that decision, like, I am not going to think something I am not willing to say, all the doors open up for you to create so much more ease. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't difficult pieces of that. Certainly when I say certain things to clients, like that I'm thinking, and I'll give you some examples, it doesn't always mean it's comfortable. It doesn't always mean that I'm not like, ooh, okay, buckle up. And it doesn't always mean that they don't get triggered. But like, my job isn't to make myself feel comfortable all the time. My job is to truly support them in changing. And so I can't see patterns happening and not be willing to say it. Again, whether that's in sales, whether that's in my content, or whether that's in coaching, right? Like, I think I talked about this before a little bit, but plenty of my coaching clients are frustrated at me at different points in time. It's my job to be okay with that. It's my job to manage my own anxiety and emotional energy around that, so that if they are frustrated at me, I'm like, cool, I still know that this is good for you to have to process through this. So I'm okay with having to manage my own shit for a minute, right? So like, let me give you an example. So I have a client who is in this pattern a little bit of liking to make things really hard. So it's like we'll have the strategy. She'll know what she needs to do. She'll commit to being focused on one thing. And then when it gets uncomfortable, she'll be like, I want to change the price, or I want to change the length, or I want to do this or that, right? And like, the easiest thing as a coach would be to run with her from thing to thing and be like, cool, what are you feeling like changing the price to? What would feel good for you? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about changing the price. Let's do this. Or, oh, you want to change the length? Okay, cool. Like, let's talk about how to do that. Do you want to restructure? Do you need to update your website? Do you want to tell your audience? That would be so comfortable, to be honest. She'd be happy with me because it would feel like I was like, okay, cool, let's do it, right? And it would be easy for me because she, like, you know what I mean? Like, she'd be happy. I'd be happy. It'd be easy. But like, what I can see for her is that that is absolutely and totally and fully a pattern, is that when you commit to something, when you are in it, when you're like waiting for the full strategy to play out and it gets uncomfortable, you want to change things. You want to jump from thing to thing to thing. And what I know is the only way she's going to break out of that pattern is to stay committed to something and not get to keep changing it and not getting to tap out when it's uncomfortable. But trust me, it's not the most comfortable to have to be the one going, hey, you're doing that thing again. Hey, you're doing that thing again. Hey, you're making it really difficult again. Hey, I still see you doing that thing, right? But that is where the transformation occurs. And I think so many coaches will see that happening, but they won't vocalize it. They'll be like, she just like jumps all over the place. But whatever, if she wants help changing her package, I'll give it to her. No, Have the uncomfortable conversation. Here's another one. I had a client that was like, I'm just showing up all the time. I'm like on social media all the time. I'm showing up constantly. Like, for example, I'm in your group nonstop. And I'm like, really? Because I'm in my group nonstop. And I really don't think I'm like seeing that. But listen, I'm available to be wrong. So I went and literally pulled all the time she had engaged in my group. It was like maybe once a week for 4 weeks, right? And like, trust me, that is not the comfortable conversation to be like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking is like, it might feel like a lot, but it's really not a lot. And so we need to like sit down and look at this and talk about what's actually keeping you from showing up and what's making you feel like you're doing it all the time and not. It would have been so much easier to just take her at her word and been like, oh, okay, like I must just be missing it. Cool, you're showing up all the time. Great job. Does that make sense? Like, having to say to her, hey, I actually looked and it's actually been only once a week over 4 weeks. Like, we need to have a real conversation about this because I see this not serving you and I see you feeling like you're showing up a lot and not really showing up a lot. That is uncomfortable, but that is the place where the transformation occurs. So for me to think, well, that's interesting that she's saying that because I'm in my group all the time and I don't see her. It would be easy to be like, well, yeah, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm not actually going to, make that a thing. No, you have to follow what you're thinking and you have to be willing to say it. That is the only thing that matters as a coach and in sales. Now, here's the caveat to that. You also have to be available for the fact that you might have to say it many times and that they might not always be receptive to it. But if you can be the one like holding the space of like, I'm here to say what I'm thinking and reflect what's true or what I'm seeing for you, and you get to decide what's true, right? I think this is where we get so wrapped up as coaches too, because we're like, well, I can't just always say what I'm thinking because like then they might not do anything with it. Yep. They might not. And then you might have to say it again, and you might have to say it again, and you might have to say it again, right? But this is the thing, and I think that this is the piece that I just want to convey here, which is like, as coaches, whether in sales or in the coaching space or even in just putting out content. Hey, Sarah Baker, how you doing, girl? You have to be willing to say what you're thinking and know that people can do whatever they want with that, right? Like, I see this so much with clients that are just starting their businesses too. Like, at the beginning, it's so uncomfortable. Like, I feel like you're working through like every layer of bullshit you could possibly imagine, right? And we want to jump from thing to thing. We want to chase all the magic bullets. We want to whatever, you know what I mean? Like, just be all the fuck over the place. And unless you have somebody that's willing to reflect that to you, like, hey, you keep getting off the path, you keep saying you want this, but really you're doing this. Hey, what I see for you is that you're all over. Like, you're never going to not be all over. Like, I think, again, as coaches, sometimes we are seeing something and we're not reflecting it. And that happens in sales all the time. Like, we can see someone like standing in their own way or making all these excuses about money or not stepping into their power or feeling like they have to wait for the perfect time. And then so often we co-sign their bullshit. We're like, okay, let me know when the time is right. But what you're really thinking is like, oh my God, like you're going to do this forever. The timing is never going to be right. But are you fucking saying that is the question. Sarah Baker says, LOL me. Oh, being all over? We all are. All of us. You're not anymore. But does that make sense? Like, I think that so often in sales specifically too, like we can literally see someone like sitting in this pattern or like, we can know like, oh, they've invested in a lot of stuff before, so they're scared to invest again. But we're not doing the hard work of stepping into saying that. And so we're like, yeah, call me when you're ready, right? And same with clients. Like that example I gave about someone always trying to make it hard and how I could easily go with her from thing to thing to thing. That would honestly be easier for both of us, but it wouldn't create transformation. It's easier in sales to be like, cool, let me know when you're ready. but you're literally co-signing their story. You're like, you're right, you should wait for the right time. And if I was doing that with that client, jumping from thing to thing, what I would be co-signing is the story of, you're right, you need to fix all these things. And I cannot do that. That is why I have this rule for myself. For coaching, for sales, for content, never think something I'm not fucking willing to say. And if I'm not willing to say it, I have to do my own work. It's not the client's fault. That's my fault. I have to get out of my own way. I have to stop being in anxiety about what they think, what the repercussions might be, all of that, right? Betsy said, I needed to hear this today. So good. Isn't it funny how you hear something over and over and each time you're like, oh yeah, that's so right and good. It's like the first time you're hearing it. Totally. Hey, Sheridan. For sure. Well, I think that this is why these conversations are so important, is because we need to give ourselves permission to do that. Like, I think that everything in the coaching space gets so like put in these pretty bows and these pretty boxes. And I feel like it is such messy work. Like, it is so messy to reflect to another human that they're like sitting in all these stories, and like to be okay with the fact that they might get mad at you for that. Right? Like, this is the messiest, most imperfect stuff ever. And I think that we're just not having enough of these conversations. And really, when we are, I think so often we're going, and if you just always say what you mean, everybody will love you and respond perfectly. I'm trying to say, have this rule anyway, and it will help you not only filter for the right people. So here's an example. If in the sales process, you say to someone like, hey, I see you sitting in this story of like, I don't have enough time, but like, I really want to offer that, blah, 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 blah. And I see this for you and I want to challenge you around this. What I know is if I do that and someone's available for that reflection and steps into that and wants to have that conversation, they're going to be a fucking fantastic client. What I also know is if they're like, you don't get it, I literally just don't have enough time, they're not going to like me as a coach. I mean, they're going to fucking hate me as a coach if we're being serious, because I don't operate like that, right? I'm not like, you're right, you don't have enough time and you don't have enough money and you don't, like, let's try to figure all this stuff out with that story. So part of the whole thing of like, say what you mean is not only that for them, but for you as a filter, right? Like, if I say what I mean in a sales conversation, I can be reliably sure they're going to really enjoy coaching with me. If I don't, here's a good, I have a really good example of this. Wait, Betsy says, so never be willing to say something you're not willing to think. You have it backwards. Yeah. Never think something you're not willing to say. Never think something you're not willing to say. Okay, so here's a really good example. So I had a sales call recently, and the woman had some questions, and one of them was kind of like, basically like, I'm not, I'm trying to think how I want to explain this without being specific, but so here it is. So I don't work in her industry, basically, if that makes sense, right? So she has a business in a different industry, or different niche area. And she was kind of like, well, how are you going to be an expert in that? Like, how can I know that I can hire you and that you're going to be an expert in that? And what was so interesting about that conversation is that it would have been really easy for me to answer that question with like, well, I actually have several other clients that have worked in that industry and have been really successful with me as their coach in it. And it would have been like so easy for me to answer in that kind of like way that would have made her feel good in the moment and would have made me feel good in the moment. But what I was actually thinking is like, well, why are you worried about me being the expert? And why don't you want to be the expert? Like, why don't you want my help to step into your expertise? Like, why don't you want my help to put on your CEO shoes? Why are you trying to like see if I'm going to know more about your industry than you do, versus like be able to coach you into stepping into greater and greater depth as like a business owner and a CEO, right? And so that's pretty much what I said instead, which was like, listen, like, you really need to be the expert in your own space. Like, what I'm here to help you do is like figure out where your holes are, step more and more deeply into your self-trust and into being a CEO and into running your business. Like, you don't want me to be the expert in your niche, because it doesn't matter. Like, you don't want to carbon copy my business. Like, you're trying to create your own. So my point is, it would have been so easy to say in that moment, oh, the reason I know I can be an expert is because I have this client, this client, and this client, and they've all been in that industry, and I have one that's making 6 figures, and I have another that's almost there, and. But I didn't say that because it wasn't actually what I was fucking thinking. What I was thinking is, something's going on here, and I want to make sure we're on the same page. Hey, Brandies, something's going on here, and I want to like really offer that I think that you have an opportunity to step into your self-trust and your expertise in a whole new way. And I think hiring me would be like an amazing first step at that, right? That is a filter too, because either that person's going to love that answer and be like, oh, fuck, you're right, that's a good point. Or they're going to be like, oh, fuck, that's not actually what I want. I really do want like a consultant in my own industry. Bye. Either is cool, but do you see how that's so important? Because if I had said to her on that call, oh, don't worry, I have plenty of other clients in that industry, and I am, you know, like an expert in it, and I can help you, and da-da-da, we would have gotten into coaching. Hey. And then I would have been like, okay, so like, let's get you to step into your CEO power, and like, what do you think your people need here, and what? And she's going to be looking to me going, just tell me what my people need. And then we're going to have a whole other issue. And this is where it's like, you can meet people where they're at, but you also have to be willing to say what you're thinking and be congruent, because when they step into coaching, if they liked the stuff I said on the front end, they're going to really enjoy coaching. If I said a bunch of shiny shit on the front end, like, because I have clients that have da-da-da-da, then I'm going to have to show up completely different. Then I have to show up as the expert that's going to be like, just take these 3 steps and do this, and like, you know, here's my 5-step system to success. And you guys know I don't roll like that. And I'm not, that's not really the point. The point is, though, that I wasn't going to think that and then not say it and give her this shiny, perfect answer, even though that answer may have initially made us both more comfortable in the moment. Does that make sense? If you're listening, can you tell me if that makes sense? Okay. So I'm going to say it one more time. Never think something you're not willing to say. If you can make that deal with yourself, you are going to feel so much transformation in how you show up in coaching and in the sales process. And you're going to feel so much more confident that when people hire you, they really, really want to work with you. And you're going to feel so much more confident that they've already had the experience of what that's like. And you're going to feel so much more confident as a coach, because you're not watching one thing and then thinking something else behind the scenes. There's nothing worse than that. When you like are watching a client stuck in their own stuff and then not really getting to say it. Okay, good. Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you. There's nothing worse than watching a client be stuck in their own shit. Like, so some people will even say to me like, listen, my client is just not doing what I tell her to do. She's not doing what I tell her to do. By the way, everyone has that experience as a coach, but side note. And I'll be like, okay, why not? And they're like, well, I think this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, have you talked to her about that? Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, cool. Have you told her she's not doing any of the things that you're telling her to do? Well, no, because she's pretty sensitive. Well, what the fuck are you talking about then? Right? And I'm not like at all like making fun of like, oh my God, this person as a coach sucks. I'm just saying this is a journey we all have to go through. It's like being willing to go, hey, listen, we've talked about the same thing for 3 weeks and you're still not doing it. Like, I need to understand what's up. Cool. Here's what I'm seeing for you. Here's why we talked about this thing 3 times and you're not doing it. Like, that is the work. And I'm about to get off on a tangent for a second, and then I'm going to rein it the fuck back in, but I just have to say that. Because I actually, so I don't know if you guys know, but I'm doing a podcast. I'm sure so many of you know because you guys have been joining the team, but it's called Literally. And so, get it? Literally, right? So anyway, I'm coaching one client for 6 months, and we're putting all of our recorded sessions out as the podcast, but I'm doing a few solo episodes just to like explain part of the process. So some of this I talk about in the podcast, so I won't go too deep into it. But I think that we are so confused as coaches that we think that like our job is just to like show up and tell people what to do and then they go do it. Right? Like, and if they don't, they're not coachable or some shit like that. I feel like that's just such complete and total bullshit in every way, shape, or form. Right? The reason they're hiring you isn't because they don't know what to do. It's because they can't get the fuck out of their own way enough to do it. Right? And so my point in the never be willing to think something you're not, or never think something you're not also willing to say, is that is how you help someone get out of their way, is you show them their patterns, you show them their stuff, you help them move through things, right? You don't just tell them what to do, assume they're going to do it, and then be mad when they don't, but not have a conversation about why they're not. Like, our job is to provide that transformation. It is to keep moving people through the mud, you know what I mean? And like, when you think that it's just to keep going, do this, do this, do this, you're missing the point. Now, don't get me wrong. I will tell my client to do the same thing 17 motherfucking times if that's what it takes, but it will not be without, but why are we still not doing it? What's keeping us stuck? Here's the pattern I see playing out for you. Here's how I see you getting in your own way. It will never be without that. And so that's just a little bit of a side tangent, but I just want to say that like part of this is about providing serious coaching results. And I think it's why so many of my clients work with me again and again, because they know I'm never bullshitting them. They know I'm going to like stick with them through the hard and icky and mucky parts, and that I'm going to say what I think, and that I'm not like, you're doing great. Meanwhile, I'm like, this bitch doesn't do anything I say. They know that's not what's happening. And it's why they want to keep hiring me, because they really know that like, I'm here for all the messiness, but you're going to hear the tough things through it. I actually had one client, I talked to about this recently. She, we had a call and she was so frustrated at her business and at me. Because we all have those moments. And especially when our coach is like really telling us and really holding a mirror up, it's hard. And she was like, I'm very frustrated in this way. And she was crying. And I was like, I'm here for that. Let's talk about that. Like, here's what I see. Here's what's true. And I like, you know, was here for that. Like, just like I'm going to say what I'm thinking, I expect her to do the same. Like, if she's frustrated at me, I expect her to be able to say that. And that was the biggest breakthrough call in our entire coaching, and everything shifted after that. Because I showed up willing to say what I was thinking. She showed up willing to say what she was thinking. And we kept having the uncomfortable conversation and moving through it, instead of just being like, well, you should just go do what I tell you to do. Fuck that, right? I just cannot stress enough. If you're a great coach, sometimes your clients will be mad at you. If you're a great coach, you're going to have very uncomfortable conversations. If you're a great coach, you are going to have to filter through people who are ready to have those uncomfortable conversations. And that's going to be in your content, on a sales call, even on a live stream like this. Like, I really try to show up and be super authentic, because I never want you to have the idea that you're going to come into coaching and that I'm going to be like, okay, go do these 3 things and then you will like not have a human experience and everything will be perfect for you. You're going to be pissed as fuck when you get into coaching, and that's not true. Right? So again, like, never be willing to think something you're not also willing to say. If I'm thinking like, okay, well, coaching is messy and it's hard and it requires like getting out of our own way again and again and again and again, both on the coaching and the client side, and then I don't position it like that, what good am I doing? I might make money, but I'm going to lose it on the back end when people want to cancel our contract or not sign up again. Right? And again, same with sales. Like that sales example I gave earlier, I could sugarcoat anything in sales. I mean, I literally think this so often. Like, I have clients that I'm sending out a client files tomorrow. If you're not on my email list, you should get on it. I'm sending out a client files tomorrow about a client who came to me with no business and made $1 million in under a year. I could market off that for the rest of my coaching experience and be like, come to me and I'll tell you exactly how to do the same. And I would make fucking bank, right? Like, I'm charging what, 7,500 plus 10% for my coaching package? I could charge 4 times that and market that. But it's not fucking authentic. Like, do I think you could come to me and do that? Yep. Do I think every single person that works with me will be able to do that? No. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's just this idea of like finding that congruence. Not only will it build you a long-term sustainable business, but it's going to give you so much more confidence, and it's going to make finding the right people that are going to stay with you so much different, so much easier. And if you don't, you might be able to make a quick buck, but people are going to be disappointed on the back end when you said something different on the front end, or when you made it seem all shiny and pretty, or on the back end when you're just like telling them what you think they want to hear and not what they need to hear, right? So this is something I really want you to think about. I think I said this at the beginning, but like, I think I know I would have said a while ago before I made this deal with myself, oh yeah, I always say what I think. It wasn't true. Like when I say I made a deal with myself, I'm talking like come to Jesus moment, like, listen, universe, this is what's up. We're making a deal. I'm shaking on it with myself. This is happening from here on out. So my point is, really look at if this is true for you in your business. And if not, think about like, can you make that deal with yourself, right? And what you're going to have to do that is work through all the messiness that comes with it. But that's the work I would rather do. And know that I'm completely transparent the rest of the time. Now, does it ever mean that I don't have anxiety around that, or that it doesn't feel uncomfortable, or that I don't think, oh man, I really don't want to say this? Of course not. That's my work. It's not my client's problem, right? And so what I want to invite you to today is this idea of like, could I make it so much easier if I just never thought something I wasn't willing to say? Could my sales process become easier? Could my filtering for the right clients become easier? Could my congruence with who buys and who stays? Could my re-sign rate be so much better? All of it. This will change starting, getting, and keeping the sale. And could my content be different? If I was saying less of what I thought people wanted to hear and more of what I thought was true, it's like that example I just gave. I could market so differently all day long and like totally change my whole business and like, you know, create $1 million course tomorrow if I wanted to. But like, that's not what I'm trying to do. And that's not the work I'm trying to do. And it's not what I'm really thinking. So when you can put out what you're really thinking in your content, it's going to happen as your business not only grows, but it becomes so much fucking easier. And that's the thing, right? We forget how hard it is to sell a client in one way and then try to serve them in a different way. That's the worst for the client, for you, for sales, for ongoing success, all of it. So this is not only going to help you make more sales because the right people are going to be like, oh, fuck, you're right. I do need to hire you, right? It's going to help you be a better coach. It's going to make people want to keep working with you. Like, this is sustainability, right? And so I hope that was helpful. I hope that's a deal you're going to consider making with yourself. And then I just want to tell you guys one more thing, which is if you haven't already, join us. Let me just put the little thing in here on the Literally launch team. So Literally is launching tentatively next Monday. Obviously, some of that depends on iTunes, but you know, I'll put it on after because I can't remember it right now. I think it's like alituplife.com/literally. I could be wrong though, so I'm going to check that later. But I will put a link in. So basically, that's what you're going to see on the podcast is you're going to see me saying what I'm thinking. You're never going to be like, oh, I bet Lacey's really thinking whatever, like that she should be doing X, Y, Z, and not saying it. I bet Lacey is really thinking that. You are never going to have that feeling on the podcast because it's never, ever true. Like when you're listening to that podcast, you will always hear exactly what I'm thinking because I'm not going to think it and not be willing to say it. So that's something that I think is really different is I feel like in the coaching industry, so often we get like the one perfect shiny transformation, or we just hear the results that came at the end and we don't see all the messy middle, both on the coach and client side. And I think we don't give the coach side enough credit of being willing to say the thing that they're thinking. And that's what I want to provide to you on the podcast, is the example of like, it's not always easy to do that. It's not always pretty. It doesn't always look shiny and perfect, and results are not always guaranteed. But that piece, that knowing that like your clients can know that you're never, ever thinking something you're not willing to say to them, that's priceless. So anyway, that's what you're going to see on the podcast. I would love for you to join us for the launch team. You can win so many prizes if you join us for the launch team, including an intensive with me, my value-centered sales course, and so many other things. So I'll put the link in. I would love your support. I think more conversations like this one and like the one we're having on our podcast need to be out there. So I would love your support, and I thank you so much. Betsy says, I want to start repelling, attracting my audience. I want to be a little more straight up in my content and approach and not worry about the outcome. Betsy, exactly. Like, I think that all the time. Like, again, that example I gave about like, trust me, I could sell the Build $1 Million Business course and make bank off of it, but that's not who I want in my audience. Not that I don't want them to want to build $1 million business. Hands down, I'm here for that. But what I want is them to understand that it's not just a one-step or a three-step system, that it's going to take tenacity and grit, and you're building this thing that's never been built before, and it's time for you to step into that. And so when I attract people like that, I know I can take them far. When I'm attracting people that like want it to not be hard, I know that we're not the right fit. And so for you, I think that's exactly true with the straight up piece is, you know, the more honest you are with them, the more that when you make the sale, you know it's the right sale. And that's where you grow a business, right? That's how you grow a business, is you get the clients that are the right fit for your coaching and you give them transformation. Love that. Okay, so I'll put the podcast launch link to win all the prizes and to join us in the comments. And hope you guys have a beautiful Monday. Thank you for joining me earlier. I'm going to go get my tooth fixed, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.